Please be seated. The court is now back in session. And the bench would also like to put some questions to the witness. And first I'd like to hand the floor to Judge Lavin to put questions to the witness before the floor is given to the defense teams. Judge Lavin, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, witness. I have a few questions to put to you to try to clarify certain points in your testimony. First of all, can you tell us exactly until when you were working at Wat Otrokun?
I do not know which month or year I was there because I was pretty much a young boy back then, and I cannot remember which month or which year I remained in the pagoda.
But can you tell us when your duties stopped? Was it a long time before the fall of the Khmer Rouge regime, or was it just before?
I remained there till the fall of the Khmer Rouge regime. That is when the Vietnamese troops entered the area.
When you left, were there still prisoners in the center?
I did not know about that. When the Vietnamese troops arrived, I ran back to my home.
When you were at Wat Otrokun, did you have the possibility of traveling to the different places or to visit the different places that made up the security center? Were you able to visit the different buildings, the different locations of the security center?
No, there were not many offices. In fact, all those people were put into the main hall, and there were some people living in the monk quarters, and besides, there were no other buildings.
And you spoke about the interrogations. Were you able to see the place where people were interrogated?
I only knew the location where people were interrogated. I knew that interrogation location, but I did not know about the interrogation itself.
Fine. So, did you know where the executions took place?
They executed the people outside the compound of the pagoda.
But did you know where specifically these executions took place?
At present, if you decide to visit the location, I can tell you where it is. And actually, the skeleton remains are stored in a stupa in the pagoda.
Ce qui m'est...
Well, fine. What I would like to know is what you could do and what you knew when you were working at Otrokun. Back then, therefore, did you know where the executions took place?
As I stated, the execution was carried out in front of the compound of the Otrokun pagoda.
Comment?
How did you know that?
Because at present I'm living nearby the vicinity where the execution was carried out. I did not see the execution during the regime, but I know it at present time, and I also know that some people who lost their family members go there to pay respect to the lost soul, and the location was near the pond.
Witness, I must confess that I don't really understand very well what you're saying. You said, I believe earlier, that you had never gone back to Wat Otrokun after having left that place where you were a guard. So I don't understand how you obtained that knowledge after you left. So there is some kind of contradiction here. But especially, I'd like to read out to you an excerpt from your WRI document E319 slash 19.3.93. And we're speaking here about question and answer 77. And the following question is put to you. Why was it possible for you to attend the interrogations and the executions of the prisoners? By which means were you able to attend these events? Answer: I could travel throughout all of the locations at the center. Each time I would go to the execution site or to the interrogation site, I always went there with my chief. Free translation. So this seems to be relatively clear testimony. So today, do you remember having made this testimony, and is this testimony true?
I do not have anything else to add to my previous statement. I was not in a position to visit the location. What I noticed was that people were detained there for a few days and they disappeared. And when I asked the people, I was told that they were taken away and executed. But personally, I did not walk to that place. I was a young boy and I was scared to go there, and I was also afraid of a ghost.
Vous avez dit tout à l'heure quand
You stated a while ago that you were asked to take water to the prisoners. Where exactly did you take the water to?
The place where I brought the water to was not far from where I stayed. In fact, I was asked to take the water to my chief's place. It was just from one monk's residence to another monk's residence. And in fact, the monk's residence was located behind the main hall. So I can say that the distance between the main hall and the monk residence was not that far.
à qui avez-vous apporté
Who did you give the water to? To your chief or to these prisoners?
I was asked to bring the water to the deputy chief because the chief was not there. However, when I was at the chief's house, I was called to fetch the water for the deputy, and after I left the water there, then I returned. And usually when the chief was not in, I would stay and watch his residence.
quand vous avez apporté de l'eau
When you brought the water to that person, did you see any prisoners?
As I stated from the outset, when I took the water there, it was the time that the prisoners were tied up and let out.
et les prisonniers, ils étaient où exactement?
And where were the prisoners? Were they where the deputy chief was or where the chief was? Were they in the main hall? Where exactly were they?
The deputy chief was in charge of the prisoners, and it was him who would issue instructions to the executioners. And I myself did not know anything about these instructions, as I mainly stayed with the chief, and when the chief was not in, then I would stay at his house to gather his house, or I would go with him to the military bases at the commune. That is when I accompanied him there.
Monsieur, je vous demanderai de répondre.
Mr. Witness, please answer my questions precisely. When you brought the water, where were the prisoners? Did you see any prisoners? And if yes, where?
Prisoners were in the main hall.
Donc vous les avez vus dans la salle.
So you saw them in the main hall. Did you get inside the main hall?
I was not allowed to enter the main hall. I needed to have authorization from the deputy if I were to enter the main hall, although I was working for the chief.
Je ne comprends pas, monsieur.
I do not understand you, Mr. Witness. Did you see the prisoners through the wall?
Comment pouvez-vous nous dire que vous avez...
How can you tell us that you saw prisoners and those prisoners were in the main hall? If you are not able to enter the main hall, how then could you have seen the prisoners?
I was standing outside the main hall, and in fact they put a partition in the main hall where female soldiers were detained at one side, and there were windows where I could see through. The female prisoners were detained at where the Buddha statue was, while the male prisoners were detained at the other side of the partition. And that's how I could see them.
Bien, donc vous...
Very well, you saw them through the window. You also said that you did not witness the executions, but you said that you observed the next day that people had disappeared. They disappeared from the main hall. Did you go back and pass in front of the main principal hall, such as to see that people had disappeared by that time?
No, I did not see them, because after that the situation was quiet and there was a reduction of a gruel for prisoners. Usually they would cook a gruel in a large pot, but when the prisoners disappeared, they only cook it in a smaller pot, and I made my personal conclusion that they were sent away and executed.
Bien, on a parlé de la salle principale.
Very well. Let's talk about the main hall. If I understood correctly, there was a part in which men were detained and another section in which women were detained. Can you tell the chamber approximately how many detainees there were in that main hall?
It is my estimation that there were a lot of detainees, but I cannot tell you exactly how many there were, as I did not have any role to be there.
Est-ce qu'il vous est arrivé, monsieur, de voir...
Mr. Witness, did you ever see any bodies at the Utwakun Pagoda?
No, I did not. And only after the fall of the regime, people went to dig up the grave to search for gold. But by that time, I had not moved to live near the area. But I heard people telling one another that they dug out the grave pits and found some golds, which the skeleton remains there, and that the skeleton remains were dug up and stored.
Vous avez également parlé, me semble.
It appears that a while ago you also made mention of 30,000 victims. Did I properly understand your testimony?
I am not sure whether the exact number was 30,000. However, at the stupa where they store the skeleton remains, there is a writing there that the skeleton remains of more than 30,000 bodies. I did not know how they arrived at the number, whether through statistics or through counting of the skeleton remains.
D'accord.
Very well. A while ago, you also made mention of a mango plantation. You said that mango trees had been planted where bodies had been exhumed. Do you know where the mango trees were planted and who planted them?
The area was transformed into mango plantation by the owner of the land there. They planted various other vegetables, including banana and lime trees. Because the land previously belongs to the landowner there and it will pass on to their children.
Bien, en tout état.
Very well. In any case, that plantation wasn't there at the time when you were working at the Otuakon Pagoda, was it?
When I saw from a distance, there were some trees there from a long time ago, including banana trees and Rebecca trees.
J'aimerais que vous me disiez si
I would like you to tell the chamber whether you know Dakoban commune. Ankoban commune, beg your pardon.
Yes, I do.
à l'époque du
During the period of democratic Kampuchea, did you know the cadres who were in charge of security at Angkor Ban?
Yes, I do. But at present, I do not know where he is. During the regime, he was at Angkoban commune. However, I did not know where he went after the fall of the Pol Pot regime.
Est-ce que vous vous souvenez de son nom?
Do you remember his name?
Yes, I do. And as I said, his name is Kung.
Nous avons entendu
On the 14th of September 2015, a witness testified before this chamber, Teng Thrun. I do not recall his pseudonym. That witness talked of a person called Run, who was chief of security at Angkor Ban. Does that ring a bell to you?
No, that name doesn't ring a bell to me. And as I said, during the regime, I spent my time with the chief, and if there was a communication between the chief and the chief, they would do it amongst themselves, and I would not know the content of their meetings. And of course, I did not know who was the chief of the commune military, for instance.
Avez-vous assisté
Did you attend meetings supposedly chaired by Khan and Un? Ho, chaired by Khan and Ho.
I have answered that question already. In fact, I did not witness their meetings. The meetings amongst the chiefs. I followed them, but I did not attend any meeting.
Je ne parle pas d'une réunion entre...
I am not talking of a meeting bringing together chiefs. I'm talking of a meeting organized by members of cooperatives, the public in the district. Did you attend a big meeting chaired by Khan, the chief of security?
No, I did not.
Bien, je vous remercie, monsieur le témoin. Je n'aurais
Very well, thank you, Mr. Witness. I have no further questions for you.
President, thank you, Judge Laverne. The chamber now would like to hand the floor to the defense teams. First, to the defense teams for Arnunji to put the questions to this witness. You may proceed, counsel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Mr. Witness. I only have a few questions, not very many, this afternoon. My first question is about your date of birth. I noted down, or written down, that your date of birth, at least what you said today, is the 7th of June 1967. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Have you ever heard, have your parents ever told you that your date of birth was another day than the 7th of June 1967?
In fact, that date of birth was given to me by my teacher when I wanted to enroll as a civil servant, and for that reason I maintained that date of birth since.
And do you know how your teacher, on which documents or which sources your teacher based himself when he gave you that date of birth? Is there any source that he used? Do you know?
I did not know, because usually when my parents took me to enroll in a school, I believe it was my parents who told the teacher of my year of birth or date of birth.
So am I to conclude there is no misunderstanding? You were born on the 7th of June 1967, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Let me move on to the next topic. The moment that you started doing things for Han, you, if I understand correctly, brought messages from him to other people. You did small jobs for him, as I understand. But you also called yourself his bodyguard. Was your job to protect him from danger if somebody, for instance, would attack him? Was that also part of your instruction, or were you just somebody who did small jobs for him, such as bringing messages?
Of course, it was up to the chief to use me for any kind of work, and I myself did not know for which task that I would be used by my chief.
I understand, Mr. Witness, but maybe it's a problem with the way the word that you used was translated, but to me, and I presume to many people who do not speak Khmer, the word bodyguard would seem to imply that you had to protect Han from anything that might happen to him, that you were, for instance, to protect him against attacks, etc. Did that let me ask you differently. Did that ever happen? Was he ever attacked and that you had to do something to protect him?
No, that never happened.
Did you ever have a military training?
No.
You were also not a very junior member or junior cadre of the CPK, the Communist Party of Kampuchea, correct?
Yes.
You did say that you sometimes carried an AK-47. Who taught you how to use this weapon?
At that time, we were not trained how to use the gun. For example, when I was asked to accompany him, I would be told to get on the motorbike with him and to bring along the gun. And only at a later stage we were trained how to use the weapon, although I myself never fired a single shot.
Would it be fair for me to say that you weren't really his bodyguard in the sense that you had to protect him, but that you were just a young boy who did jobs for him?
Yes, that is correct.
Now let me go to the beginning that you started doing jobs for Han. You said that you stopped doing jobs for him at the end of the Democratic Kampuchea regime when the Vietnamese came. Can you be a little bit more exact as to how long you did jobs for him? I wrote down that you said it was a quote-unquote brief period of time. Would that be a few months or maybe 6 months? Could you be a little more specific or try to remember exactly how long it was that you did those jobs for Han?
In fact, as I stated a while ago, I could not know the entire duration, although I was with him for a short period of time, and I remained with him until the fall of the Pol Pot regime. At that time, Pol Pot actually trespassing Kampong Cham province, and we were fleeing along with them when I was running back to my house.
I understand, Mr. Witness, that it's a long time ago and it is difficult for you to tell exactly how long you did those jobs for Han. A short period, but is it maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months, maybe a few weeks? Can you give me any indication, or is it really not possible for you to be more specific?
I believe the period was between 5 to 6 months.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Is it also correct for me to say that doing jobs, small jobs, messengers jobs for Han was your only job? You were not officially or formally or whatever you would like to call it working at Otakun Security Center or Otakun Pagoda. Is that correct? You were only there because sometimes Han was there. Am I stating your evidence correctly?
Yes. When he went to Otrokun, then I would accompany him, and if he were to be at the military station or base, then I would be with him there.
Now, would you be able to recall how many nights in those 5 or 6 months you actually spend the night in Wat Otakun? That you were there sleeping at night, and maybe while Han was there at the same time? Do you remember how many nights in total you slept at Wat Otakun?
Answer. Sometimes I took a rest. I may rest there for 2 nights or 3 nights. And they may go to the work site during the daytime for a brief moment before they returned to their sleeping quarter.
But when you said just now you slept there for 2 or 3 nights, would that be in a larger period of a week or a month? Can you give an indication? How many nights per month would you sleep the night at Wat Otrakun?
Answer. Sometimes 1 night, and on some other occasion 2 nights. It depended on my supervisor or my superior, but we rarely slept within the location of Otrakun Pagoda.
Did excuse me? Did Han sleep mostly at his own home in those 5 or 6 months that you worked for him?
Answer. Could you repeat your question once again?
My question is trying to figure out how many nights per month you slept. Let me try to ask a different question. Did you sleep at Wat Otrakun sometimes in the night, in a month, because your boss Han slept there? Was that the reason you slept at Wat Otrakun?
Answer. Sometime I spent a night there or 2 nights there. As I said a while ago, when my superior was tired, he came back to take a rest for 1 night or 2 nights, after which he went to the military base.
And did your boss Han sleep most of the nights either at the military center or at his home? Is that correct?
Answer. After he returned to Otrakun Pagoda, he would sleep at his own home. He had a different house, and sometimes I slept as well at his house.
Earlier this afternoon, you described that at one point at night you saw a prisoner tied. When you saw that, was that at one of those few nights that you were at Wat Otrakun? Is that a fair understanding?
Answer. It was the first time that I saw it, and it was so scary for me for the first time that I saw it.
Let me move on to another subject now, Mr. Witness. You were asked a question earlier about the difference between, on the one hand, so-called light offenders, and on the other hand, so-called serious offenders. Do you remember talking about this?
Answer concerning the light offenses. They may have been the offense of stealing sweet potato or some food to eat. My younger brother was about to be arrested during the time that the pig he raised was scrubbing the soil and the sweet potato came out of the ground. So for my younger brother, he was about to be arrested, and this might have happened to the elder people as well.
But the distinction that you made just now, and also in your statement to the investigators, is that something that you heard in relation to the incident of your brother, or is the distinction between serious and light offenders something that you heard from people at Wat Outrakun?
Answer. I was not so aware of the so-called light and serious offenses. For younger people, they may have been less serious for them, and we were warned not to try to pick up bananas from the tree. The vegetable that we grow at home sometimes were not allowed to pick up to eat. So what you can imagine what would happen if we got and pick up all those vegetables to eat.
I understand your answer is clear to me, Mr. Witness, but the matter of serious offenses versus light offenses is something you knew notwithstanding your knowledge of Wat Outrakun. Is that correct? It's a difficult question, sorry.
Answer. I did not know at that time what kind of offenses made those people sent to Otokon Pagoda. It was within the report of those who were in charge of that described about the offenses committed by the arrestee. To my knowledge, the mobile unit took those people into the one pagoda, and people would be placed in that pagoda for about 1 week. And some people would have been placed within the center for 1, 2, or 3 weeks due to the thefts of picking up jackfruits and other fruits. And I secretly asked the people who were aware of the situation, and I was told that the offenders stole jackfruits and other fruits to eat. That's why they were arrested and placed in the center.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Now, to me, it's crystal clear that you never actually witnessed any execution in the vicinity of Wat Otakun. Have you ever heard before 7 January 1979 or after who of the security people at Wat Otagun might have been involved in the execution of people? Did you ever hear names of guards that you probably saw at Wat Otagun who might have been involved in alleged executions?
Witness, it's a lengthy question. I could not get the gist of it.
I apologize, Mr. Witness. Have you ever heard names of people who worked at Wat Otakun who might have been involved in possible executions? Do you know any, have you ever heard names of people?
Answer: I have heard people made mention of their names of those who killed the people. However, the killers died, were all deceased now.
And was this something that you heard after 1979?
Answer: it was after the fall of the regime that I heard, for instance, that Juan died already. Nowadays, I know that some of those people are deceased. And I am assigned to teach students at Otakun Pagoda or in the neighborhood, and I know that those people are all deceased.
And then another question, Mr. Witness. You were asked at one point in time a question about how you possibly might know that the prisoners were Cham, and then you said that you did not see them or hear them being asked questions about their background, but you did say that you asked people working in the kitchen. Can you explain to me how people in the kitchen could possibly know the background of the prisoners?
In fact, I did not know when they were there. I was quite young at the time, and I sometimes chit-chatted with others at that location. The place, something happened at the place, and I was scared.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. My last question. Do you recall having said something about a possible sexual offense of someone within Wat Otakun called Bot?
Answer. I learned about it from the chef within the kitchen's house, the cook for Longsword Group. That, in fact, Bot was the deputy chief under Horn, and that person Bot fell in love with the female cook, rather with a female, and that female went to confide in the female cook, and later on the Horn learned about that, and Bot was arrested. The deputy chief under Horn raped the female I have just mentioned, and that female confided in the female cook, and later on Horn learned about the matter, and what together with the female were taken away and executed.
I presume that you haven't actually witnessed this execution of Bot and the female prisoner, correct?
Answer. There was a female. That female was considered the person who committed the offense.
I understand, Mr. Witness, but you said that both Bot and the female prisoner were taken away and killed. My question to you was, you haven't actually seen the killing of Bot and the prisoner. Is that correct?
Answer. I did not witness it myself, but I learned that Bot had been arrested, and I no longer saw Bot after that time. It was presumed that someone died after the arrest.
Thank you very much, Mr. Witness. Thank you, Mr. President.
President, thank you. The floor is now given to the defense counsel for Mr. Kyusumpon to put question to this witness. You have the floor now, counsel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, witness. My name is Anta Guissé. I am the co-international counsel of Kyusumpon, and it is in this capacity that I'm going to put a few complementary questions to you. First of all, I would like to try to find a few temporal landmarks. I know that the facts date back quite far, and I know that you don't remember the dates, but I'm going to try to put questions to you so that you can kind of give me a time frame. You hail from Anlong Ak, I understood. I apologize for the pronunciation. So that is your native village, am I right?
Answer, yes, that is correct.
Earlier, you said that just before the Vietnamese arrived, you fled back to your home village. So did you flee therefore to Anlong Ak when you were informed of the arrival of the Vietnamese?
Answer, yes, I fled to my home village.
So my question therefore is to know, just before you fled to your home village, where were you stationed? And what were your duties just before you fled? Were you still at the Otrakun Pagoda, or were you elsewhere?
Answer. I fled to my birth village after the arrival of the Vietnamese troops. So everyone were on their own way to their locations after we learned that the Vietnamese came into the country. After we learned about that information that the Vietnamese came to help us, we went back home and everyone fled to different directions.
I had understood that, witness, but that was not my question. My question was, when you learned that the Vietnamese were arriving, where were you before you went back to your home village? When you learned that news, where were you exactly?
Answer. I fled from Piem Chikong region, the place where I learned that Vietnamese were coming into the country. Everyone persuaded each other to go back home after we learned that information. I did not go anywhere else with other people. I was missing my house and also my mother at the time.
Please really pay attention to what I'm saying. I'm trying to put very specific questions to you. You said that you were at Pim Chikong. So my specific question is, now, were you at the Otrakun Pagoda when you heard that the Vietnamese were arriving? Were you still assigned to the pagoda?
Answer. At the time, I was not stationed at Otrakun Pagoda, since Horn ordered the troop to be stationed to counterattack with the Vietnamese troops, but it was in vain, and the soldiers were dispersed into different directions, and at that time, not so many soldiers could resist the Vietnamese. So we decided to return to our respective houses, and the person you mentioned went to his house as well, and everyone pretended that they wanted to go and relieve themselves, but actually we were trying to flee thanks to the liberation.
So I don't know if there was a problem in the translation, because you were speaking about a person that I would have spoken about, and in my question I did not speak about anybody. So can you tell me if you're speaking about Hong? Is it Hong who also fled?
Answer. At the time, we fled all together, but through different directions. Everyone said that they wanted to go and relieve themselves, but actually they wanted to separate from their superiors and fled to other places they wished to go.
Est-ce que je dois comprendre?
So must I therefore understand that when you learned that the Vietnamese were arriving, you were still working for Hong?
Yes, I was working still with Horn for 1 or 2 days before I fled. Perhaps I was working for him for the last 2 days, and the situation became intensified. And at the time, the soldiers of the Khmer Rouge were becoming smaller, and then we had the opportunity to flee.
D'accord, donc
Fine. So therefore, getting back to the question of the period we're speaking about, when you answered the co-prosecutor and when you answered my colleague Victor Koppe, and you said that you worked for Horn for about 5 to 6 months, can we agree that those 5 to 6 months were before the end of the Democratic Kampuchea regime? So are we okay to situate this period just before the end of the regime?
បាទមុន
Answer: yes, that was before the end of the regime.
Je voudrais maintenant en
Now I would like to get back to another period. When you answered the co-prosecutor, you spoke about two assignments. The first in a mobile unit, a children's mobile unit, and the second in a mobile unit that was attached to the district in which the people were generally aged between 20 and 30. So do you remember having spoken about both of these units to the co-prosecutor?
Answer: the children units were stationed within the commune, and later on there was an issue with that children unit, and people within that unit were hated. So I was assigned and removed to another unit together with a person. And when I was assigned to the children unit within the commune, the work was not so comparatively hard. I had to go and find rats and also to do some light work, namely carrying earth.
Excusez-moi, monsieur le témoin.
Mr. Witness, I crave your indulgence. I know we are coming to the end of the day and we're tired, but I would like you to pay particular attention to the questions I'm putting to you. My questions are very concise. Sometimes I have the impression that you do not quite understand my questions. I do understand from your answer that you did talk of the two units when you answered questions put to you by the co-prosecutor. I am particularly interested in the first unit, the unit of children. Do you remember the unit for children in the commune, and do you remember in what year you started working in that unit, if you do remember?
ខ្ញុំ
Answer: I do not remember when I started to work in that children unit within the commune. I cannot recall when I was assigned to be part of that unit within the commune.
Vous avez
In answer to a question put to you by the co-prosecutor, you made mention of the arrest of Cham people in the unit. I didn't understand whether that arrest was carried out while you were in the children's unit or whether you were in the district mobile unit in which persons aged 20 to 30 were detained. Can you clarify this point and tell us in what unit the Cham were arrested?
Answer: It happened when I was part of the district mobile unit.
Je vous pose cette question et ce sera
And I'm putting this last question to you, witness, because I see that we are almost at the end of today's hearings. When the co-prosecutor does say that persons were arrested, you talked of persons aged between 20 and 30 who are arrested. Should I understand that that is what you meant? Persons aged between 20 and 30 arrested.
Answer, they were youth. And I cannot tell you why we considered them youth and what old were they to be considered as a youth.
Mais nous sommes d'accord que ce n'était pas.
But we do agree that these were not members of the children's unit.
Answer, they were not children.
Monsieur le Président, j'en ai terminé.
Mr. President, I have no further questions for today.
President, thank you. It is now time for the adjournment, and the hearing will resume tomorrow on Tuesday, 12 January 2016 at 9 a.m. Tomorrow, the chamber will continue hearing witness Moi Wani and then start to hear 2 TCW 988. Please be informed and on time. Thank you, Mr. Moi Wani. The hearing of your testimony as a witness has not come to a conclusion yet. You are therefore invited to come here and testify once again at 9 a.m. Court officer, please work with a vessel to send Mr. Moi Wani together with the reserve witness 2 TCW 988 to the place where they are staying now, and please invite them back into the courtroom at 9 a.m. Security personnel are instructed to bring Mr. Kisampon and Nunchia back to the ECCC detention facility and have them returned to the courtroom tomorrow before 9 a.m. The court is now adjourned.